What's up, everybody? It's Thursday. Hey, Daim. Hey, Colborne. It's your MOCA Weekly Town Hall. It's 12:01 p.m. where I am. And we are happy to once again be back talking to everybody about whatever's going on this week. What do you think? Do we like this one where we're all like in our own bubbles, or do we want to be like real close to each other?
You know, a cold one sandwich.
Is that this week's theme?
I'll be the jelly.
Whatever humor that is I've never heard Daim laugh like that. Cold one sandwich. Well,
let's not analyze that too closely.
Yeah, we're all tired. We're all hungry. Anyways, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. For everyone watching, we are appreciative of you for being here. And of course, I think we should just get right to the biggest news of the week, which is my Discord impersonator. Because
what?
Did you not see those messages?
No.
Oh yeah. So I received a text from my friend Jake yesterday, and it was a picture of somebody who reached out to him, named Cohen the writer. We'll tell you what. I think I can bring it up. Let's see if I can bring it up here. We can look at it all together. That's what I'm talking about.
I have a Discord allergy.
Cohen the writer.
Yeah.
This is your direct. So this is what my friend gets on Discord, and this is the message that was purportedly sent by me. Hello, quote. Hello. I'm trying to take my time to get across all members of the community and know how trading is going with every one of us. I know the market has been swinging recently due to the pumps we're experiencing right now. Period. No space, but uncapitalized. It's more vital than ever to be careful and cautious. Misspelling, comma, still no space, especially when it comes to risk management. How is trading going at your end? Now, for those of you that don't know, this person, Jake, is like my best friend, or at least like one of my oldest, bestest friends. Either way.
He's not just a random member of your personal community?
No, not just. So anyways, this feels kind of like I made it. And I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
You know, it's just, there's a first time for everything, right? And like one of the things about the space is like, it's just hard to get your name out there and really get a foothold. But if somebody is using my name and my likeness in order to scam the people in our general community, that feels like I've graduated to a new tier.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
It's somebody's first bull cycle.
Yeah, that's such a great thing. If someone thinks that I have enough influence and power to convince anybody to do anything, they're sorely mistaken.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the trading guy, so.
Yeah, of course, everyone knows me, Cohen the writer, as
the trading guy.
Community lead. Well, actually, we can. Yeah, that's a good point. Trading expert and community lead. There we go.
That's really good.
So that was.
Oh, I've got a funny one. How do you change this?
You go to settings, and then in general, it gives you just like the first thing, gives you an opportunity to put a title in there. Daim, you're welcome to give yourself
No, I don't have a general.
Yeah, I saw it actually when I was setting up.
You don't have the settings down here?
I have the settings, but I don't have the general.
There's no general tab when it comes up for live stream quality, name, title.
Nah, but I wanted to do sales of heads, PFPs, Art Decos.
We'll workshop it.
Heads for sales.
While we don't know everyone in the audience, thank you to Shibboleth and Pindar for being around and to also being as interested in my Discord impersonator as I am. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I don't know what that says for Art Decos. I have to assume that if people are impersonating me, if any bot or otherwise impersonating me to try and get to a community, that's probably a good sign for our PFP project.
Yeah, I mean, we've done,
Yeah.
maybe like 10 grand in volume this week.
Not bad. It's all about that pinned tweet, the new pinned tweet thread.
It's all about that new pin tweet thread.
We got a new pinned tweet thread. We got all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah, it has been an interesting week for decos. First time in a long time that we've had upward momentum. What was the floor price at for a second?
2.5 ETH in volume.
2.5 ETH in volume.
4.25.
4.25. Nothing.
That's like almost $15,000.
Nice.
It did go as high as 0.05 at one point.
And the bots came back out.
And the bots. Everybody is a paper-handed fool.
So is this just the sign of all signs that NFTs are back? That like there's any interest in our PFP project?
I mean, I keep feeling like there's definitely a backish, I don't know, atmosphere afoot.
But it does seem a little like unmarried from reality. People keep talking.
I mean, isn't that what being back is all about? Being unmarried from reality, and the money flowing.
I think people are definitely trying to divorce reality.
Say more.
Well, I think this stuff got so big during COVID because people were trying to escape reality. And I think we're back in a different way.
So perhaps the downfall of the U.S. housing market is going to lead to such a desire to leave reality that NFTs may actually come back.
Everyone's gonna get their own HyperFi world.
It feels pretty tenuous.
I'm curious, like, there's been, obviously we're all on the same timeline, so they're all facsimiles of each other to some extent. There's been a fair amount of discussion about whether early NFTs have value. And I think like outside of just art, just general NFTs, things that were, I don't know, believed in the blockchain paradigm before the rest of the market caught up. Like, do you think that there's going to be a reckoning for things like Mooncats or Curio cards, or even later, like crypto kitties and things like that? Like,
I mean, Mooncats are at like $1,200 per at this point, which I don't know, unless I'm misremembering, that seems significantly higher than where they were for a long time.
I love
like double or triple that.
Fair point.
I'm a Mooncat maxi.
Now I'm not sure I see how like crypto kitties would necessarily get to a similar point. Like I don't know if it was an exaggeration, but I mean it doesn't sound out of the realm of possibility of there being like 2 million of them or something. Is that sounding accurate, Colborn, or is that inflated?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
I read someone saying that there's like 2 million crypto kitties.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I feel like with that kind of volume, like I'm not sure, other than for a select few, we'll ever see like a crypto kitties floor at some outrageously high number. And are they still like operating? Like if you're willing to part with standard gas fees, like can you still breed them? And
they have their own chain now, I believe. Ronin network.
Oh, they do?
Well, they went and wrote Ronin.
I believe so. I don't know.
You know that because wasn't it the same people as your NBA Top Shot?
That's Flow. Let's not.
But it was. They're both Dapper Labs, no?
I can't bear to talk about Top Shot. It still hurts so much. I haven't looked at my Top Shot.
Well, at least you have Top Shot. I was the one buying like the MLB bobbleheads of players in 2017. I've got a million of those. Hit me up in the DM if anybody wants a MLB bobblehead from 2017.
Who do you got?
Bro, I got everybody. What, you like the Red Sox?
No, I'm a Yankees fan, bro.
You're yeah. Well, that's so conflicted.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I was just explaining this to my grandma yesterday, and she didn't understand it either. There's an individual story for how I came to like the Patriots, the Celtics, and the Yankees. And I know, I was getting some shit. I often get shit, totally deservedly, for being literally as much of a bandwagon fan in each of those sports as you can seemingly be. But there's a good reason for all of them, I promise. Good enough. I think it's good.
I can't imagine I have any Yankees. I do have a Craig Kimbrell you can have.
Craig Kimbrell. Dude, these things are going to be.
Oh, I have a Giancarlo Stanton.
To you.
Yeah.
You know his real name is Mike?
I have a Mike Stanton.
I've just logged in, by the way, to my Top Shot account for the first time in probably.
Look at that. 7 years ago, September 29th.
So, okay, this is a great point.
Almost 8 years ago.
7 years ago in 2018, 2017, we look at art all the time from that time period and say, like, a lot of people use this as their argument to prop up X-Copy as like this big artist, or deserving of like the high sales price. But these artists who were early, these artists who were early believers, these are artists who were, plumbing the experimental possibilities of the blockchain before there was any real commercial viability. Does that extend in the general dialectic in the general market to these projects, even like these lower key ones? I've never heard of MLB bobbleheads, but if it was minted between 2017 and 2018, it preceded a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was an official MLB licensed MLB champions bobbleheads that they were making into a game. Definitely way, way, way ahead of its time.
I think like value is sort of self-reinforcing. So I don't think you can universally generalize the early stuff is going to be worth a lot of money, because it's I guess more likely to than some random shit from last week. But if there are some projects that just never end up getting the traction, then they'll never ascend to those sort of heights that some of the other big early projects are currently at and are likely to remain at.
So point is, it's like, or what you're saying essentially is like, it's a good justification for value that's already been achieved, but it's not a compelling enough reason for an unvaluable artwork, project, etc., to gain new value.
I mean, I guess I'm sort of saying, like, I don't see Mooncats becoming, even remotely as valuable as punks as an inevitability. Right? I could see it happening, maybe, but I'm not sure that whether or not it's going to happen has much to do with anything other than like chaos theory and like impossible to predict social dynamics, and there being some sort of hidden, unknowable, unforeseeable point where like a snowball effect could really get going. But there's every possibility that'll never happen. Like maybe yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like, unfortunately, money is attracted to money. It's not attracted to anything novel or new or risky, or it's just attracted to its own thing. It's its own vortex sucking that thing into it, and it seemingly like sterilizes and makes every like hard edge smooth and rounded and soft, and it's an inescapable force. So a lot of things, the more sterile the better, the more valuable they are, and I think we see that a lot. I think there's a major argument for why the generative art stuff got so big in that way.
Absolutely.
I think it's also the same as CryptoPunks. So but a lot of these things are just, it's just the momentum of money.
Well,
Yeah.
And you can't really expect that it's ever going to go down. You know, like X copy, I don't think will ever
Right.
go down in price. It'll only continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger and sell up as
Yeah.
you know, people who made all their money in crypto go to these things, and it's
Well,
going to
there's
be the first name that everybody says.
there was that moment when I think people started to collect a lot of the early AI work with rapidity. People like Bart Janssen and Shortcut and like Zaza. There was like a mad rush to just pick up any AI artwork that was created before like 2018, 2019 from Super Rare. And I wonder, like, do you guys think that was misguided too?
No, I mean, I think that has real narrative outside of it just existing on the blockchain.
Yeah, probably more than some of these other things, like, you know, CryptoPunks, I don't know, autoglyphs, crypto art with an E at the end. Like, I don't know that any of that stuff has any like real world, objective, reality grounded justification for, you know, the high prices that they command, other than the fact that other people have paid high prices for them before.
Mm.
And that suggests that yet other people will probably eventually pay higher prices still for them again.
Unless, and I can bull case this, we move into a world where there's trillions of agents out there that have this whole other pool of money, and they're going back and they're trying to understand, and they're trying to create value for themselves. You know, if there's trillions of agents and there's, you know, trillions of assets and things are just constantly being created, then yeah, perhaps. But it's on a scope and scale that is probably larger for any one or small niche of human beings like ourselves to like collectively understand or care about or allocate significant resources to.
I
Yeah.
was reading an interview with OK Go.
Because just to say, like, you can go to the Louvre and the Louvre is just miles and miles and miles of Renaissance paintings.
Mhm.
You know, and they can fit it all in a museum, and you know, I don't even think there's like that many trash art paintings for how mimetic that was, or how many like X copy derivatives. So I don't know. There's I don't know if it'll probably find a home in the metaverse somewhere. All of this stuff.
Well, and that also discounts, not discounts, but like, you know, underneath the Louvre are incredibly large stores of even more Renaissance art that they're able to like actually put on their walls. And like same thing with like the Smithsonian in
Exactly.
Washington D.C. has a very famous like network of tunnels underneath it where all of these old artifacts that just aren't currently on display are held. You know, so for every like, there's so much that's seen all the time, and there's so much exponentially more that's literally buried with no actual place to put it. Even though it's all, in theory, kind of the same justification used for all of them. You know, one of the things I think bringing up the Louvre is a really interesting point because, like, you go to the Louvre and it becomes quite numbing to me.
Totally, same. It's endless.
It's endless, and the works, the like, the specificities between the, you know, the great works and all the other works are so slim and almost unnoticeable to my eye. You know, what sets apart the Caravaggios and the Raffaellos and the Donatellos is so marginal compared to all of these, you know, great masters that I've never heard of, and who may have, you know, a piece in the Louvre or may just have a piece on someone's mantle somewhere, right? There's no intrinsic vast chasm of talent. It's just ingrained narrative, which is why we know Michelangelo.
Yeah.
It's narrative, which is why we know, what is it, Titian? It's a person, I think. Like Titian. Either way,
Yeah.
I think it's a great point.
The other Ninja Turtles.
Titan.
Well, like, yeah, what is it? Michelangelo, Donatello, Raffaello, and Leonardo, of course.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
know Leonardo's work.
Yeah.
But I think that
So-
that's one of the things that people often say when they go to the Louvre. They're like, the Mona Lisa is actually not impressive at
Not
all.
very impressive, yeah.
It's teeny and it's tiny, and it sits right across from the Wedding Feast at Cana by Paolo. Giant, beautiful
Didn't you
painting.
just write
Oh,
about
very
this?
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I prefer my Mona Lisa twins, but although I am biased, of course.
What's that mean?
That's his own work.
Oh,
Yeah. Let me see if I can plug in a link into chat.
yeah, I think it's a good point. Like, there's all of this old, not old, but like aged, theoretically narrative-driven artwork if it's going to accrue value. But there's so much of it. Only some of it can actually attain value. Um, all of these like early blockchain pioneers, and it's like, well, like Ray Myers was doing this before anybody, or not anybody, but like before all of them. And Ray Myers isn't selling for $300,000 for every one of like her artwork. Um, Sarah Mayohas, similarly, right? Like, has a name, has a legend, has a mythos around her, but like, it's not ascended to those heights, even though like the same justifications that are used to like massively prop up these valuations of some of these like early projects can be applied to her, tenfold. Kevin McCoy is probably even a better example. The very first NFT, could Kevin McCoy, who minted the very first NFT, have managed a $69 million sale the way people did? Probably not. For whatever reason, the narrative isn't there around him. But maybe he has. I don't know much about Kevin McCoy's market or if he mints.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think like early work is such a relative thing. Like right now we're talking about stuff in like 2017 and 2018 as being super early, and 2019 kind of early, but like unless we fuck up like far worse than we expect to, there will be a 50 years from now, there will be 100 years from now, and the much maligned 2021 cruise crypto artworks are not gonna seem as drastically distantly removed from the 2018 2019 stuff as it does today.
Interesting point.
The volume obviously is different because the volume went like way up in probably in like late 2020 and definitely in 2021, but I mean the volume is going to keep going up. So even from that perspective, what's considered early crypto art is probably going to expand in definition as the years go by.
Yeah.
Well, that was like everybody getting so mad when people were saying all the 2021 OGs. Now that we're in 2025.
Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. It's impossible and annoying to be on the internet today. But there was, some controversy over people saying now like everybody from class of 2021 is considered OG.
Yeah. I mean, class of 2021 is, I feel like a lot of the scene's favorite target of I don't know, disdain. So yeah, I could see a lot of people getting triggered by the OG label being applied to the group.
Well, I will say I've been, tempered myself by the museum and by you two in that regard. Like, I consider if you're an OG, if you minted before December of 2020, which aligns with like what we have in the Genesis collection, or what we like, preserve in the Genesis collection. That's always been kind of like my guiding light. This is how you tell before this moment is when you can tell that somebody had like found this technology, was using it, was experimenting with it outside of like market conditions, outside of like favorable market conditions.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that will be, I wonder if that will be honored in the future, 10 years in the future. Like, it would seem like that distinction would still exist. Like, I think the fundamental thesis of the Genesis collection, which is, after Beeple's sale for the most part, or maybe it was after the CryptoPunk sales, the multi-million-dollar CryptoPunk sales in early 2021, that the market was reset, and thus you could not unmarry crypto art from NFTs from market conditions. I mean, I guess I don't see why that narrative wouldn't remain true even 10, 15 years in the future. There's still like a before and after, like the creation of this market, which is still somewhere within January to April to 2021.
Yeah, but then, at some point, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, this will cease to be a separate market and will just be, something thoroughly integrated into everybody's lives. And like, you know, that situation. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. There was some weird stuff going on, I think. Oh, maybe with Colborn.
I mean, it may not have financial value, but at least like in historical and academic value, right? If I think about like people looking back on crypto art in 15, 20 years and saying like what academically is the most interesting part of this, or like how do we delineate the people who built this movement versus the people who like came into it later, like where is the schisming point between OGs and non-OGs? That seems like it would be a pretty comprehensively useful time period in which to like separate what came before and what came after. So I don't know. I'm not pushing against the idea that like time will suppress the kind of like difference between OGs and but that seems to be like a pretty
I don't think
persistent flashpoint, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think there'll ever be like I don't think the concept of OGs will disappear from crypto art. Like that seems to be something pretty deeply embedded. I just think, just like Colburn is saying, like, there are people now calling the 2021 crew OGs. I think it will expand, who knows by how much, but I think it will. And I think you make a good point, Max, about like that sort of end of 2020 being like a good cutoff, because it sort of separates people who sort of showed up primarily because of market conditions versus people who were kind of original believers or like early believers in the dream.
Quickly, I think that that's part of it, but I think that the more fundamental change is that after that point in 2020, you couldn't be in this space without market conditions, right? There was a market awareness that existed within the space. There were market dynamics that were brought here that didn't exist before, that you could have been outside of. So I don't even think like I don't want to. I guess for me personally, like I don't want to fault anyone for finding the space in 2021 because I found the space in 2021, right?
Yeah.
Like part of the reason I found it is because there was something happening here that demanded my attention. I wasn't an early like influencer in the space. I wasn't an early experimenter. I wasn't like I didn't find it through like creative challenges. I just stumbled upon it because there was a financial sphere that it was now bubbling in. So I think
but
I just want to make the distinction, I think, between like saying that people came here primarily for market-driven reasons and that the space now existed primarily as a market-driven entity, which is subtle,
but I gotta say, like, I'm not sure that distinction is as strong as that, because as someone who first minted in end of 2019 and end of 2020 was like I've had quite a bit by that point, and that was when my art blocks series came out. I definitely like crypto art made meaningful financial difference for me in 2020. Like and like Colburn is nodding here because he knows some of the museum's acquisitions of my works basically were what made my wedding possible in the middle of the pandemic. And like it wasn't it wasn't an amount that I could live off of, but I think a lot of artists sort of either take for granted or have learned from the cruelty of life that they can't depend on their art for covering 100% of their bills. And so while certainly market conditions changed and evolved significantly, and I agree, became a lot more overt factor. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only
Yeah.
like pre-late 2020 artist for whom money was still like a meaningful factor in doing crypto art. And like there's plenty of early OGs who I'm sure would swear up and down that it wasn't and never was and never will be and still isn't. But like some of these same people were probably involved in art performance watch trading at various points in the time between then and now. And like there's an anti-authoritarian and an I don't know, anti-money streak almost in the heart of crypto art, which is weird given how hyper financialization is also like
A part of crypto.
kind of sort of embedded in the
Yeah.
DNA of this movement.
Well, I think you
But
bring up a really good
yeah,
point, and this is something that I definitely fault myself for and do too often, which is like I've built crypto art into like two segments, right? And it's like before people like Genesis period collection and after, but I over equate the entire like 2017 to 2021 period with itself as if it was one distinct thing the whole time, right? As if
yeah,
this period where like Mohara was selling pieces to Art Gnome for $3 and Xcopy was selling editions for $10, as if and Robbie
yeah.
Burrell,
Like
right?
2018 and before probably was. I'm guessing all like that. Now, of course, I wasn't here for it, so
But then there was
Holger
the
can correct me
gradual
if I'm
decline
wrong.
as the
But
market developed, and there were
yeah,
all-time high sales. And there was
certainly by 2020,
yeah,
even if you weren't a top artist, like
there were
there
material amounts of money
was
being transferred.
there were financial rewards, reasonably present in the scene.
Yeah, I mean, Cole, I remember when we were talking with the Druid on the podcast, and he was saying that he used to just put dollar bids in for things, and he was shocked at how much work that he would get for that.
I learned so much. I mean, I learned so much from him because where he would put like 0.01, I would put 0.1 and I would get so much more, it's, but that's what it took. It just took somebody, looking and, when there was no expectation of what it was, and it was very different. It was kind of sky's the limit. And now that we've tasted a lot of the things that we thought we would get to, people took it as a sign that they were either smarter or more talented or more deserving or whatever than other people. A ton of ego got involved. Something that was just experimental and community driven turned into like a big PvP shit show. And here we are, and here we are like at the other end trying to pick up the pieces and point to, what we think is important or who we think acted, the right way. But, crypto also has a very short memory, and it's kind
Yeah.
of what do you do for me now?
Although a lot of people do remember, um, oh my God, the guy we were just talking about
Xcopy,
with the
Mohara,
super low bids.
oh,
The
the Druid.
Druid. Yeah. I mean,
Druid.
the Druid
A
was
lot,
very
yeah,
controversial.
yeah. A lot of people definitely still remember him with, very strong and often negative feelings. And I semi regularly see him called out on that shit from years ago, on posts, unrelated to any of it. So
But even still, like we poo-poo, a 0.01, a 0.1 ETH bid. Like, the difference obviously is immense in terms of like current valuation, but like making $400 or having a $400 bid on artwork is not no money, right? And now, granted, ETH hadn't gone crazy quite like it did in 2021 yet, and I don't want to speak to like what the situation was like in 2020. But if Goldborn, like you were putting in 1.1 ETH bids on artworks, like $100+ sales are material, period, for
yeah,
most artists, right? Like most artists do not exist within the confines of an art movement. Most artists are, making shit for Etsy. Most artists are working out of craft shows. They like have
yeah,
tables at like county fairs. Like most of the world does not exist. Most of the artistic world does not exist within the artistic continuum. They have no concept of it. They have no connection to it. They have no way of getting to it. And their art is just as meaningful and time consuming and passion driven as anything in crypto art. And like 80, 90, $100.
So I don't want to give myself too much credit because the price of ETH when I was buying all these works on Super Rare was like 150, $200. So like where the Druid was giving dollar bids, I was giving $10 bids or $20 bids.
and I mean back then, that was something too, right?
I mean, it's the jump from zero to something is infinite, right? Everything else between that is like very, very measured.
And
so zero, there's nothing, and then suddenly there's something, and as Pindar says, it does mean a lot. I was very motivated to go where nobody else was going and uncover 2-3-year-old art that had sat and nobody had bid, nobody had seen anything, and that was exciting.
Yeah, Pindar.
Because there was a statement that was like left behind, and there was no expectation that anybody would see it.
Well, I'm glad Pindar is in this conversation because, like, I know we had talked once about, I think it was Last Selfie, one of the X copy works. It was like, I think he had either sold it or bought it. I believe Pindar, you sold it. Whatever the one with the river.
It wasn't Last Selfie. Yeah, I think it was like the
all-time high in the city or something like that. And I think the sale was like $934, something like that. $930 was like the largest sale of crypto art at that time, right? And if you're looking at the dollar figure, you're probably missing the point, which is somebody put $1,000 up for an asset in a market that had not been established. And they said, I believe that there is something here that's worthy of me leaping and bounding over whatever like the economic confines of this thing. Oh, is his Genesis, Pindar? Sorry. We apologize, Pindar. I didn't mean to make you relive that. But I think it's also, for better and for worse.
Yeah. And I imagine, Pindar probably already had like a pretty respectable, practice outside of crypto arts, even before he joined the movement. But for myself, like
as I recall, I think he certainly had a TED Talk.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I found the TED Talk when I found the work. And it just stood out. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is like, a legitimate person. They got a TED Talk.
Yeah. Wow. So definitely a different caliber. Myself, prior to crypto art, I am actually happy to say I've had, like reasonably meaningful sales before, like, 3-figure sales, which, aren't much in a sense, but, take it in the context of what you were saying, Max, that, the average artist sort of, is an island in the middle of a world that largely doesn't give a shit. and like, certainly getting to a point where I've had like several works sold for like respectable amounts, already felt like an accomplishment. But of course, like all of that stuff was physical, and especially given that my works are in fact originally digital, took a lot of time and effort and doing to even get to a point where there was like a physical thing that could be bought. And all the sales happened in the context of exhibitions that had to be applied to and attended and set up for, and so on and so forth. So like a lot of hassle. And ultimately, honestly, the money that I made probably it didn't even really cover, never mind the time of making the art, the time that it took to get the art to a point where it could be bought. And then I got into crypto art, and sure, like there were a lot of lower sales, but in crypto art, being able to actually offer my original digital art that I was creating, instead of all this hassle with stuff that was unavoidable, but also in a sense didn't really add to the stuff I was making. um like that was different. And existing in the crypto art scene after the end of 2019, like I was now in a context where every single day was a potential sale. And I don't mean that in a financial perspective. Like in 2020, certainly there was no expectation that this would ever become something that I could live off of. But I mean more in the context of uh, you know I'm I'm making art, and every day it's being seen by people, and it's being hopefully appreciated to varying extents by various people, and every day is a new possibility of somebody recognizing that it has value,
I mean,
and that it has value as art.
it is pretty crazy that like simply by like entering into the you know the knowledge matrix of this space, right, and by following the right people, not following the right people, or following a lot of people, the artists, the collectors, the institutions, etc., like you can just situate yourself in an art movement. You can at least be aware of everything that's going on in an art movement. You can know who's selling at Christie's and Sotheby's. You could know what the interpersonal drama is. You can know when exhibitions and galleries are opening, and like who
Yeah.
are the rappers. Like I'm not sure there was ever a time in the history when you could just anybody at any point, simply by like tailoring their Twitter follows, could just enter into the full context of an art movement. Not necessarily have an impact on it, but like see the swirl of everything, right? Like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff just isn't
Yeah.
possible.
I mean, that's crazy for sure. That's part of what makes the movement, I think, as incredible as it has been in the ways that it has been. Because uh you know for aside, gatekeeping, and like a lot of other considerations, which of course at the end of the day still disadvantage the global south, and people from poorer countries, or just in general, like less privileged backgrounds. But even with that, the degree to which the scene and the community and the movement is accessible is like nothing ever before. And globally at that, even again, even aside the inequalities.
Can I switch topics quickly? I'd like your opinion on something.
Okay,
Sorry.
if
I,
you must.
I came across this tweet from 3 days ago from Josh of Super Rare, who does design for them. I'm not sure what his actual position is, but a tweet
I
that
think I know the tweet.
that generated some conversation, and obviously I think is targeted at a certain segment of crypto art, but I'll just read it here. This quote: "One of the challenges in this space is that by removing gatekeepers, we've now opened the floor to people that are more vocal than the trained artists and curators. The outcome of this is art being elevated that strikes no cultural chord with anyone outside of this niche space." And there was a lot of backlash, and he seems to have taken a quite antagonistic turn after getting backlash to this. I'm just curious if you guys have any opinions on
Oh
that.
God.
Can you put it on the screen maybe, because it is like I've read that tweet a million times and it's almost impossible to decipher.
Sure. Can you see it?
Yeah, I mean it's poorly written for sure, but I mean I think basically the thrust of it, the way I interpreted it, and I think some of his conversation with other folks, I feel like made it seem like that my interpretation was accurate. I think his thrust was that Super Rare is sort of tirelessly doing the Lord's work in trying to keep standards high, and should get more appreciation for it. That's sort of how I read it.
Yeah. Can you tell me what this means to you, Max?
Okay, yeah, I'll go through. We'll do a quick line read. So one of the challenges in the space, I would say that something that's difficult within crypto art.
Yes.
Sorry, that's a joke.
I
So
like it.
I what this means essentially is that,
Yeah, go ahead. Keep
Like-
going. I like the line read.
like removing gatekeepers, we've now opened the floor to people that are more vocal than the trained artists and curators. I think what he seems to be saying is that what existed in the past was a system that elevated those who had more of a right because they had more knowledge to discuss art and also determine what was quality and what was not. And now, because of
Pre-crypto art, right?
like social, yes, I would just say like traditional art movements.
Yeah.
More vocal here, I take to mean like, more influential. I mean, I think social media dynamics are what is being put in the crosshairs there, and so yeah, I think weirdly, like he's on the side of most people within crypto art by saying that like so much of this art doesn't make you feel, has no cultural impact, but these people have a greater social media reach, and that's why it's being elevated, and that's why nobody outside of this movement can understand why like $60,000 is being paid for like
that's not how I read it.
generatively created valley, or the like a skull with something. I think weirdly this is actually a pretty ubiquitous idea amongst a lot of our kind of set within and around the museum.
But that is not like a crypto art problem. That is literally the problem with everything in the world.
I mean,
is that quality is overlooked, craftsmanship is not cared for. Like the only thing that matters is distribution through influencers, and it's all like it's all kind of just vapor.
I mean, I don't hate that. I think gatekeepers is the wrong term here, but I think that the thrust is okay, right? It shouldn't be by removing gatekeepers. It's by like suppressing curation, more or less, would be my way of looking at it.
I think I don't.
Curation.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with the. I'm not sure I have a lot of issue with the text of the thesis as written. I think, however, coming from the place that it comes from, like I don't interpret it the way you do, Max. Like I don't see somebody effectively here speaking on behalf of Super Rare, making a statement that the problem with crypto art is that we don't appreciate quality art and
Well, I think the
just
thrust.
go after whatever sells
Yeah.
high,
I think the thrust is
because they
super
go
fair,
very hard after the shit that sells high,
but which is fair, and there's an irony
and
here. But I think that
try to contextualize that as being quality
But that's
after the
also the
fact.
same thing as the contemporary art world. Like the
Oh, for
outcome
sure.
of the art being elevated in galleries in the major cities across the world likely strikes no cultural chord with anyone outside of the niche space of the 2,000 art collectors that would be investing in this as an asset.
So this is
Yeah.
A thesis I've had for ages, right? Why are most lay people willing to read books, listen to music, go see movies, engage in pretty much every art form that isn't like wicked esoteric? But when it comes to art, like visual art, I feel like most people say like, I don't get it. And they don't get it because they're looking at things that have no emotional impact on them, but all of the messaging from the intelligentsia above them, from academia, from the gatekeepers, is saying, no, actually, this is important. It's not a problem with the art, it's a problem with you. You don't appreciate this. So people just say, okay, well, I can't appreciate art. I'm not going to go to the Met. I'm not going to go to the Guggenheim. I don't understand why Vasily Kandinsky is like a good artist. This doesn't mean anything to me. And I think, Coburn, you're absolutely on the money. Like, people just, like, they don't know what to do with all of this art that by din of its economic value and by din of its academic value, or if its postured academic value, is deemed good,
Not for them.
meaningful, and they are unable to get anywhere into it because it doesn't actually say anything, because we're just reading things into it, because everyone's just reading things into it. Like, I think this is one of the problems with Xcopy. Like, Xcopy's art is not like technically brilliant from a layperson's perspective. Within crypto art, I think it's deeply meaningful because it co-ops the feelings and the cultural lexicon and gives shape to like phrases and things that are meaningful here. But there's no reason, like, my mom, my brother, my friends who are not in crypto would not look at like all-time high in the city and be like, yeah, that right there, that's a masterwork. Like, I think that's the case with a lot of art, and Xcopy, like, I don't mean to like call him out specifically. I think it's the case with like a shitload of modern and contemporary art.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for sure.
People just don't get. I've told this story before. I think I've written about it. I was at MoMA with my younger brother, and we like came across a piece that I can't remember. It was a canvas with a slice in it.
Very famous work.
Yeah,
I remember that story.
Lucio Fontana's spatial concept expectation is what it's called, and I always forget it. And he's like, why? Well, it's important. It does this. It does this. It's like, yeah, but why? Like, most of the people who are looking at art have that same question, and the answers are unsatisfactory because every other kind of art form, for the most part, satisfies the answer of why intrinsically. Like, why is this good? Well, watch it, read it, see it, taste it, experience it. Art needs, a lot of the art that's postured as important requires that justification. That's why, for my money, like, Gazers is the great crypto artwork. Gazers is so easy to get, right? As soon as you explain to someone what's happening, what they're actually looking at, you get it. It's always my go-to when I try and like show someone what's going on in crypto art. Like, I'm not going to Cherniak, and I'm not going to Hobbs, and I'm not going to Xcopy, because people might be like, "Oh, that's pretty," but like, why is it worth $900,000? Why is it worth $1.8 million?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's natively digital. It's something that everybody readily understands, like the desire to look at the moon or go to the moon, that stretches through our parents' generation. It stretches into crypto as symbology. It's very human. And then also it's incredibly technical in ways that you can't even really begin to understand how it's being processed, but so much information is constantly like terraforming the object that is on view.
I mean, it's the classic, it's the classic reason why so many people belittle contemporary art, because they look at something and say, "I could do that." And like at a certain point, if the art canon is propped up by things that like any layperson could do, they just didn't have the name, marketability, or you know, bevy of assistance required to like do something at a certain scale, like they're just not going to appreciate it. Like,
Yeah.
certain kinds of cuisine, certain kinds of movie, like many movies at scale, artistic, whatever. Certain kinds of books, epic stories, science fiction, like things that are really imaginative or really well written, and art like gazers too. Nobody looks at these things and says like, "Oh, I could have done that." Like part of the with Arthur Schopenhauer's famous quote of talent is hitting a target that no one else can hit. Genius is hitting a target that no one else can see. And like we come to the art to see what is possible, what the human being entirely turned towards expression is capable of when firing at their absolute fucking best. And like part of what you need in that is the sense that like I could do this. I think part of the reason like Sam Spratt is as high profile as he's gotten is because technically he's an incredibly competent and like incredibly skilled painter. And like though like you look at those pieces and like the intricacy and the detail and the scope and the story of it, and like even if you don't like the subject matter, even if you don't like him, like it nobody looks at that and says, I could do that. And I think that's an important thing that's missing with a lot of the art that's like propped up. I think it's a lot of what's missing with a lot of the generative art. A lot of the art where you need to tell its entire context instead of just looking at it. But you have a market that's schism between what is effective and what's important. And like the art market at large has has like erred on the side of like what's important more than like what's meaningful.
And there's a lot of inherent and like very willful and intentional elitism in art, and like that abstract painting you saw with your brother and him asking why, like in as far as there are answers to that question, they're all like highly specialized answers that perhaps the painter actually thought of and considered. But if they did, like that was basically a conversation of sorts being had with sort of high level art movements and long dead painters and philosophers and all that stuff that the average audience just doesn't have access to. And this is not me saying like everything should be pop art and should feature your favorite cartoon character or DC Comics superhero or whatever, but I feel like there surely are ways to make art that is able to have that centuries spanning conversation, but also manages to appeal in like a simpler, more direct way, and can be appreciated on multiple levels.
What Colburn was saying before about the Louvre, I think, is important. Like the Louvre is the most visited museum in the world, right? Like, and Renaissance art shares something with Impressionism and shares something with a lot of Cubism and Surrealism, right? A lot of these persistent art movements share a sense of like awe and wonder at the ability and the imagination, right? The Marc Chagall stained glass windows, like there's something about it that you just say like, wow, not why. Your first instinct when approaching a work of art across the medium should not be why. It should be wow, and then have the questions, right?
Yeah.
If the artwork's first, if it's appealing to the intellect before it's appealing to the spirit, then I feel like it's missed the boat. And I think visual art in general, the market, the academia of it, the ivory tower of it, the gatekeepers of it, have consistently, for reasons that I'm sure in some places were antagonistic, and I'm sure in some places were exclusionary, and I'm sure in other places were just born off of momentum, have erred almost completely on the side of like I will like looking for artwork that makes them say why instead of artwork that makes them say
Yes.
why. And
Yes.
that's a problem for lay people. It's not a problem for us within the movement, but to show somebody who's uninitiated why something's important, they need to have that moment. And yeah.
But I mean, that's an important consideration for an artist to have, right? Like there is, of course, probably to a lot of people, a tremendous draw and an appeal to creating something that has these grand philosophical or the sort of historical underpinnings, and weaves elegantly into the tapestry of the story of art within all humanity. But like I don't know, if you're an artist that also intermittently wants to sell their art, and you're not at a level where every person looking at your artwork is a Harvard educated intellectual, then you probably should thoughtfully and willfully have that wow factor that you're talking about, Max.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll get a broader appeal. And it sounds weird because the moment I say broader appeal, like it feels like I must necessarily be talking about something base and like lower value and common and whatever. But I don't know. I feel like the fact that these words even have that connotation within art, uh, just again is like conditioned elitism. Um, I think I said it many times. I think the one of the huge promises of crypto art is in the democratization of both the making of and the collecting of art. So, like crypto artists should definitely be also willing and able to make art that has a wider appeal and that doesn't require an art degree to understand why this is actually worth something.
Yeah, an art degree or deep investment within the culture, like within the
Yeah.
Like, but we're also fucking deep in it that you
Yeah.
can't get out of the toilet. So much.
And honestly, in a weird way, to just ever so briefly sort of chime back to the previous topic, I feel like some of the hate for the 2021 crowd of artists comes from a place of most of them being very shallowly, if at all, grounded in the sort of standards and culture of the movement, and having a lot more of that wow appeal.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it wasn't crypto art. Before that, you came to crypto arts. You know that afterwards it was selling digital art. People was a digital artist.
Yeah.
Right. And that was an invitation for everybody on Instagram with a following to come monetize their following. That was the Nifty Gateway promise, of open editions. And, suddenly there could be these hype cycle moments around just kind of.
Around people who didn't understand our movement and, gave every indication by their actions of wanting to have little to do with it. Beeple comes to mind as like one of the biggest examples, right? Selling essentially all the ETH, and I mean, he's still around, but like I don't think he ever sort of all that deeply I don't know, embraced or integrated the crypto spirit.
I think he chose to fuck around and find out later, and I think he did find out.
I think
did he? I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Yeah, I mean, after that, I think I'm just saying that every kind of opportunity was afforded to him. So if there was something that he wanted to find out, then.
Oh, I see.
Pindar
Okay.
says that it's a weird thing where we all had the distinction of being OG, and a bunch of new people came in, realized being OG was important, and claimed the title for themselves. Said it's stolen valor, and I agree. But there's also there's agency outside of the artists who are claiming an OG title for themselves, and even as they bestow it upon themselves, it needs to be confirmed by others. For reasons.
Yeah, I think anyone applying it to themselves is, just fundamentally not credible.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
Having said that, I definitely am one of the people who thinks that there are artists who joined in that 2021 wave who I'm like thrilled became part of the movement.
Totally.
And and wouldn't want it to be any other way.
At the end of the day, it should grow bigger than ourselves, and it really, there's nothing worse than just getting salty about. So you should walk away before you're salty about something that you used to love and care about.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. It's 1:07. We've been here for an hour and 7 minutes. I feel like it's time to ship off. Why don't we do that? Colborne, as always, thank you so much for being here. Shibboleth and Pindar, thanks for hanging out with us and lending your ears and eyes. Keegan, thanks for stopping in and say good morning. And we'll talk to everybody next week. So, ta-ta for now, gentlemen.